Welcome back to the Puma Podcast. I'm Tory.
And I'm Puma. We're glad you joined us today.
Yeah.
It's another good day.
Good day.
Yeah, nice looking at you, Tory. So you look very relaxed today.
Yeah, we're filming in a different area today than normal.
Yeah, you're actually laying on the floor.
So it's the joys of podcasting.
Yeah, podcasting. Yeah, so you can just imagine our just glorious studio and everything all set up and
yeah.
So
good. No, guys, we're glad you guys are here. You know what we do on this podcast? What do we do, Puma?
we talk about Jesus' life and everything in between.
Yes, we do. Guys, we are in our integrity series, and I just love this series. We are jumping back a little bit from our previous stories. So the last couple of weeks we've been in the book of Daniel, and today we're in 1 Samuel. And before we kind of dive into our story, I guess I have a question for you guys. When it comes to integrity, what do you do when someone's wronged you? And maybe not even just wronged you. What if they've wronged you for years? They've kind of been your, quote, enemy, and they're currently attacking you. How do you react to that? Do you fight back? Do you get defensive? I don't know. Do you just let God smite them? Does the Bible talk about that? How to deal with your enemies, your adversaries? And what does integrity have to do with how we respond to those?
Yeah, because we talk about integrity. The integrity of the upright, Proverbs 11 says, leads them. And so the upright person is one who desires to do the God-honoring thing.
Yeah.
And that's really easy to do when everyone is agreeable with me.
True.
But what happens when someone is attacking you or someone has it out for you?
Yeah.
It could be someone in your family. It could be a coworker. It could be a boss. We've all probably been in situations where we had somebody in authority over us, and they were mistreating us or not seeing our value, and even misinterpreting our actions and our words in a way that where they perceived that they were being harmed, and you really are just trying to not have no intent to harm or hurt at all. And even this gets into our culture today, where it seems like everyone and their mother is offended at everything everything says, right?
Yeah. Get offended.
Yeah, you're out and about, and people offend you all the time. How do you respond when people take what you do, even with good intent, they take it wrong?
Yeah.
And so that's really the big idea where we're going today. And 1 Samuel 24 is where we're going to be. So if you want to turn there, if you have a Bible, and we will get started.
Yeah, if you're driving, just listen along.
If you're driving, you probably should have it memorized, right?
That's right. Yeah, hey, let's dive into 1 Samuel 24.
All right, Tori, so as we get into this, I think a little context is needed before 1 Samuel 24. And 1 Samuel 24, it's that account where King Saul is chasing David. King Saul has 3,000 of his best men. He's chasing David all over the Judean wilderness and all over the place. And, the Bible's very real. Everybody has to relieve themselves from time to time, and so including King Saul. And so he went into a cave to relieve himself, and lo and behold, it was the cave that David and his men were hiding in, way in the back of the cave.
Yeah,
and that is where we're going to be. But we need a little context before we get to the situation.
That's the juicy part. Yeah. There's so much context. I love the story of David. Something I've studied for a long time. I did my practicum over David's life. And so I'm going to really fly by.
You love David so much that even when we're talking about Daniel, you still think David.
Yeah, right. Right. So many times, guys. All the edits. It's crazy. It's wild. But yeah, we're talking about David today. And I'm really going to quickly summarize 1 Samuel 16 up to chapter 24. So you get David's a young teen, right? Probably 14 years old. Because the three oldest, when you were 20 and above, were in the army. He was the youngest of 8 boys. Do the math. He's probably 13, 14 years old. And the Lord rejects King Saul. And that's really important because it says that the Holy Spirit left King Saul and descended upon David after the prophet Samuel anointed David. So David has been anointed to be king, which is crazy. He doesn't really become king till 30. So you have like 15, 16.
Half of his life still before he's
right.
there. Right.
Yeah, so David, the story goes, David gets anointed, King Saul gets kind of cranky, the Philistines are attacking them, an evil spirit, kind of messes with Saul, makes him depressed and anxious. David gets summoned to play the music, the harp for him, calm him down. Worship music is kind of cool, really helped soothe King Saul. So King Saul have had a relationship probably up to this point in chapter 24, probably 3 to 4 years, if not more. And they've known each other for quite some time. So David is in the palace serving King Saul. Ironic, he's anointed to be king, serves the king. That's fine. Then the big classic battle, David and Goliath. So David goes back and forth from the palace to the fields and the sheep. And then David and Goliath, the Philistine, this giant Philistine Goliath, he's out there cursing God for 40 days. And Israel's all afraid. Jesse, David's father, is like, hey, go bring food to my 3 oldest sons in battle. And the classic story, right? David goes, he hears, Goliath mocking God, and he sees Israel's afraid. So David, with the help of the Lord, kills, Goliath. Well, King Saul promised whoever kills Goliath will have lots of riches, family will be tax-free, and the third one could marry the princess, which is really interesting because this is kind of fairly soon to where we get to our story. So David kills Goliath. But then King Saul does not let David marry the princess. Instead, he offers a dowry. Hey, marry my oldest daughter. David's like, well, first of all, King Saul should have given his daughter, but he didn't. David's like, no, I can't. I'm just a humble shepherd. I can't do that. So Saul marries off his first daughter. Then the second daughter, Saul, Michael, oh, she really likes David. Maybe I'll try to have, humble David, because Saul was super jealous, right? Saul has slayed his thousands, but David has tens of thousands. Saul's very jealous. He's like, hey, David, marry my second daughter, Michael. And David, again, in humility, says, I can't marry, the princess. That's a big deal. I'm just a mere shepherd. So David doesn't take the bait. He's humble. Saul can't publicly shame him because David's too poor. So then the Bible is crazy cool, because the Bible says that King Saul's like, you know what? If I can't shame him or kill him, I'll let the Philistines do it. So then he gives this, kind of wild plan. David, go bring back 100 dead, Philistines, the uncircumcised part, and that can be the dowry. David's delighted, God's with him, and David brings back 200, and so then David marries Michael. So now David's a prince. He served the king, he fought and killed Goliath. David is now commander of the army, kills Philistines, and now David is the son-in-law of King Saul. Well, the plot thickens. Well, now David's in the palace, and King Saul orders his men, hey, go to David's room and in the morning, kill him in his sleep. Well, Michael, his new bride, hears this and goes, David, you need to run and flee from King Saul because my dad's trying to kill you. So David flees in the night. That morning, the guards come to David's room in the palace, and they're like, hey, bring us, let us in. And Michael's like, oh, David's sick. He can't come to you right now. And so the guards come back and like, hey, King Saul, we can't kill David because he's sick. And it's crazy because it says that King Saul curses and is furious. He goes, I don't care. Bring me his bed, and I myself will kill him in his sleep. Wild. So the guards break down the door. They bring the bed to to King Saul, and of course the classic: Michael put a statue in goat hair, and David wasn't there. So then King Saul's furious. This is the beginning of a very hateful relationship. Fast forward a few chapters. So David is still the commander of the army, but he no longer is in the palace because King Saul's trying to kill him. Although ironically, David comes back and still helps soothe him when he's having his his depression, demon fits. And Saul tries to kill him, throws one spear, misses. David still plays. Saul throws another spear, and that second spear, David runs away. This happens actually another time later until David straight up leaves the palace. His best friend Jonathan, right? He's also the prince. Jonathan, a lot of math. I can show you verses, but basically Jonathan's probably 10 to 12 years older than David at this point. And they become friends. David's on the run. The whole classic arrow thing is King Saul still mad at me? David asks. Jonathan's like, I'll go find out. Plot twist, Jonathan asks David, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to let you know if my father's really mad at you. And of course, King Saul is so mad, curses at his son Jonathan, tries to kill David's best friend, throws a spear at his own son. So now David's on the run.
Saul is really, as God's first anointed king, kind of a piece of work.
Oh, he's awful. In
Yeah.
fact, as David's on the run, he stops by in Ramah. There's a place where these priests are at, and he gets the sword of Goliath. And David and his faithful men, because they're people, David was a warrior, they're hungry, and they eat some food there at the at the temple, at the place where the priests were. And Saul hears about it, and just because these priests help David, Saul kills them all 85 priests. I mean, Saul is an angry madman out to get them. And fast forward a couple years, okay? This is very important.
A couple years of being chased around.
Yeah, David is in the wilderness. He's, in En-Gedi, right to the left of the Dead Sea, if you know where that is. It's just dead. It's desert. Now, there is a waterfall. It's amazing in En-Gedi. There's a waterfall in the middle of nowhere. But overall, it's a wilderness. David and his men are hiding. King Saul is trying to get and kill David. Here we are in chapter 24. Whoo, take a breath. All right,
All right, everyone, relax. Yeah. Yes.
So, and that context is really important because David has nothing but serve King Saul, love King Saul, fight his battles for him.
Yeah, that highlights that, David has been gracious.
Yeah.
David has been trying to be caring, showing mercy, just trying to serve. And Saul has been nothing but ruthless, anger, vengeful, vindictive, and just outright evil. I mean, just evil toward David.
Yeah. And we have to remember David was anointed to be king. And here we are several years later, David is being attacked by the king. So yeah, chapter 24, right? So, and I can just picture this. I've been to En-Gedi. I know you have too, Puma, and or you've been to Israel. But when you're there at the Dead Sea, you go up to Masada, some of those really high places, those caves, you can see out for miles. And I'm just imagining David looking out, sees 3,000 elite. I mean, these are the best. These are the Navy SEALs, of the army approaching. They get closer and closer. They get to your very cave. And who comes in? King Saul to take a dump. I mean, right. I'm just picturing that'd be wild. So King Saul comes in to relieve himself. And check out verse 4. 1 Samuel 24, verse 4. David's men say to him, "Now is your opportunity," they whispered to David. "Today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemies into your power to do with as you wish." So David crept forward with a knife and cut off the hem of Saul's robe.
That's probably not exactly what his men thought he was going to do with the knife.
No. Well, and these guys, again, David's friend, his soldiers, they've been on the run too. Saul's trying to kill David, and whoever's with him, whoever helps David, clearly gets killed, even priests. So these men have sacrificed a lot. And they, hey, you know what, David, we know you've been anointed by God. Look at this amazing opportunity. The Lord clearly has anointed you. So David creeps up. And verse 5, though, is just, it blows my mind. But then David's conscience began bothering him. Why? Because he had cut Saul's robe. If this is me, I've been like, dude, why did I just kill him? I would regret not attacking my enemy. But David's heart is so sensitive. It's so compassionate. And we'll get to why in a minute, but his heart was broken over this. I mean, let's compare, what Saul's done to what David's done. Who should feel bad about doing and cutting off his merch? David, his heart, it was bothered him. And look what it says. So we're going to verse 6. But David said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should ever do this to my Lord, the King Saul. I shouldn't attack the Lord's anointed one, for the Lord himself has chosen him." And then verse 7 also blows my mind. So David restrained his men and did not let them kill King Saul.
I love it when a good revenge story, right?
Right.
I love a good plot twist or gotcha or one of these things. David's conscience was pricked because he cut off just the hem of Saul's robe, and because David knew that Saul was the Lord's anointed. It was God who chose Saul. It wasn't Saul who chose Saul. And if God chose Saul, then God is the one that will get rid of Saul. Because God made a promise to David, but that promise wasn't that David could take matters into his own hand.
Yeah.
I mean, to live with integrity in this moment, when even for you and I, we probably say, "Oh, David's justified."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is self-defense.
Yeah.
Right.
David's. I don't think most people would fault David if he would have stabbed him right in the back while he's sitting there.
Right.
Right. And it was certainly got the applause of all of his guys. Right. But what does integrity look like to do the God-honoring thing when people are hurting you and attacking you? When your enemy, when vengeance would feel so good. When we live in this world where there's a lot of hate and angst going on.
Yeah.
Every time I go out, it seems like somebody reacts in some way mad at me for where I'm standing in the aisle at Fairway or how I'm driving my car or wherever. And do I have integrity to show grace and mercy to them, or do I desire vengeance, or love it when I'm driving down the interstate and a guy passes me, doing 95 on the interstate? I love all the cell in my body love to see him pulled over a few miles ahead.
Yes, sweet justice.
It's like we like that, but there again, justice. Is it our responsibility to administer God's justice?
Yeah.
And I think to live a life of integrity is to let God be God and let me be me, and not confuse the two.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great point. Yeah. To let God be God. I mean, look what it says at verse 8, because I think it's just, the humility side of integrity. So after King Saul had left the cave and gone out on his way, David came out and shouted after King Saul, "My lord, the king." Again, just there's the verbiage there, very respectful.
Right.
And when Saul looked around, David bowed low before him. That's interesting. It's one thing to be like, hey, you know what? Hey, King Saul, I didn't kill you. But then to bow down. I mean, David, he could have been like, hey, Saul, buddy, yeah, we're peers. You're king, but God anointed me to be king too. But he didn't come to him as an equal. David humbled himself and bowed down. And look what he says. Verse 9. Then David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the people who say I'm trying to harm you?" Now, I've done a lot of studying of David. David knew King Saul. It was King Saul's idea. It was King Saul who was jealous. It was King Saul who was angry. It was King Saul who didn't like David. People aren't like, oh, King Saul, David's trying to kill. I mean, people might have said that, but King Saul wants to kill David himself. He isn't being manipulated by someone. But David here, he extends, he asks a question. He opens the door for reconciliation, for making it easy for Saul to confess. He's like, why are you listening to others who are telling you I'm out to get you? Verse 10, "This very day you can see with your eyes it isn't true. For the Lord placed you at my mercy back there in the cave. And some of my men told me to kill you, but I spared you. For I said, I will never harm the king, for he is the Lord's anointed one." I think that's so beautiful that even again, I would call it self-defense. I would say, David, no, he's literally trying to kill you. Your men have been on the run. Also, while you're away, King Saul gave your wife to another man. I mean, there's so many reasons for David to hate King Saul. At the very least, cripple him. But he humbled himself. He spared. He was heartbroken that he cut part of his robe. People of integrity have the humility to trust God's will and God's providence over their own. We go down just a couple of verses. Verse 12, "May the Lord judge between you?" No, may the Lord judge between us. He puts himself in the judgment seat with King Saul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they're both under the hand of God.
They're both under the hand of God.
Yeah. And see, true integrity recognizes that me and my enemy both deserve the same thing. That we are always under the merciful and gracious hand of God. And it's not our right to demand or expect, even thinking of our political climate today in the United States.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
We gloat when quote unquote our enemies get it, or are we sorrowful when they get what they deserve, but we, with humility, because we know that we are just as guilty before God.
That's a great point.
What attitude do we have? Because there's a lot of things that our political leaders do today that really bother me, and I think they're wrong. I still have to have a respect for their authoritative position, even though I can completely disagree with their decision making. And you see this in David, the integrity that he has. He completely disagrees with Saul's decision making, but he still recognizes that he is the Lord's anointed, and he is going to view him as that until the Lord removes him.
No, that's really well said, Puma. Do we trust in the Lord enough to have compassion and mercy? I've come to learn that confidence without compassion leads to pure arrogance. If you're confident, and David wasn't a wuss, right? He wasn't some, just a bashful guy who was just too, weak or wimpy. No, he had plenty of confidence, but he had compassion because he understood the Lord was the judge. The Lord is the one who anointed a king, and he wasn't going to go against the Lord. Right. It wasn't even so much for Saul. It was just David loved and trusted the Lord so much. He humbly placed himself in the hands of God.
Right, and this is what integrity, as we've been talking for these weeks, integrity, to let your heart of integrity guide you, and integrity is doing what God would desire you to do, the God-honoring thing. Even though it might have costs or consequences, and here the part of the cost is more years of running,
Yeah. Yeah.
or have to wait more years before I finally can be that which God told me I'm going to be, which is the king in Saul's place. Because David was concerned about what God would want, what God would think here, even though his enemies deserved it.
Yeah.
And that's walking with integrity, and that is very, very hard to do. This was a big situation. It's also hard in the small situations, the daily situations, when someone in my family, says something to me, someone at work says something to me, or someone, just a little thing. Again, we talked, I think in our last podcast, our reactions highlight, our win.
Yeah.
What is it that we're about? And I think even here, how we respond in these situations.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too on just the timing. It was probably 10 more years before David became king, and actually 17 and a half more years before he entered Jerusalem in the palace. And to have that kind of trust in God, what's the win for David here? And I love what verse 15 says, what David says to King Saul. May the Lord therefore judge which of us is right. Again, putting the consequences and the justice in God's hands. And may he punish the guilty one, for the Lord is my advocate, and he will rescue me from your power. I think David understood that King Saul probably is going to not stop,
right.
that he's going to hunt him down, but yet he trusts in God's rescue. He trusts in the power of God to protect him from Saul. And the rest of the story, at the end of the chapter, Saul, he actually breaks down crying. He goes, "Is that you, my son David?" And he's like, "You are more right than I am, and I've sinned." And he confesses. And I believe that Saul really meant it at the time.
Right.
But it's interesting, too, that even with David, showing great humility and mercy, he doesn't just willingly trust Saul. He trusts in the Lord, not Saul, because verse 22, right after Saul, and Saul does, he asks King David, when you become king, please be kind to my family and don't kill off all my descendants. And, and David actually honored that. He actually, Jonathan's son, he actually saved. And, but with that though, 22, so David promised to Saul with his oath that he would not hunt down his family. Then Saul went home, but David and his men went back to their stronghold. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think we confuse, I just trust God, then I'm not going to pay my taxes, I'm not going to put gas in the car, I'm just going to trust God, I'm not going to the hospital. And we should always trust God, but trusting God is not an excuse to be foolish either. Mm-hmm. And even though David, forgave and showed mercy, he didn't trust Saul. He trusted in the Lord, but he didn't act foolishly.
Right. Yeah, integrity doesn't mean stupidity.
Right. Yeah, right. And I've heard some people say, well, if you just have faith, then you don't need to ever see a doctor, and you don't need to, put that splint on your ankle. And yeah, there's a sense of wisdom there too. But ultimately, God is the judge. And do you trust God? Do you trust God with your enemies? And you can't be someone of integrity without humility. Yeah. You really can't.
So what's your AQ today, Tory?
That's kind of the AQ, I think. When it comes to the people or situations in your life that you have been wronged, and not even just wronged, but that bother you, get under your skin, do you trust God enough? And in humility, will you trust God with not just the outcomes, but in for him to defend you? I'm not saying you can't defend yourself. This isn't a pacifist push here. But I am saying people of integrity trust in God's power, in God's revenge, God's justice, more than their own.
Right. To do the God-honoring thing, to trust him, regardless of the cost or consequence.
Yeah. With the unknowns of maybe very difficult people, right? David trusted God. He didn't trust Saul. He trusted God with Saul. And that's hard, but that takes humility.
Yeah.
So do you trust God with the people, the things in your life that you wish you could evoke justice and revenge on? People of integrity trust God with those that have wronged them. And that's very hard, but it's better. And that does honor God. Again, integrity will guide you. Integrity is doing the God-honoring thing, even if it's hard, even if it might cost you restraint, that no muscle. It's better. If that's what God's leading you to do, then trust him. Because God did see David. God does see you. And that's something that we need to hold on to in humility. So who or what and where can you trust God in your life that you might want to act because God hasn't yet on your behalf.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Puma. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions or thoughts or comments, please feel free to email us at thepumapodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you next Friday at 10:10. Till then.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.